Hey Brittany, I wanted to kind of make you a screencast to go over what we covered this morning in the Zoom since we got our recording messed up. My fault, of course. And that way you would have a copy of it that you can reference back to if you have any questions and you can just use as a help tool. So just starting fresh, when you get your computer, you're going to open it up and it's going to take you to your K-12 page. Of course, you know how to do all of this since you've been a learning coach. It is the same process as you use as a learning coach or a student to get into the online school. You will set up your username and password. I don't know if they provide this to you the first time. I'm sure they do, and then you can go in and change it to whatever you prefer. But you'll just log in there, and that will take you to your homepage for the online school. Of course, it's being a little slow today, so it may take just a moment. Here we go. And this will be your main view that you have all the time. Again, looks very similar to what a student's view would look like. You can ignore my classrooms that are down here. You will just see your classroom. So this is where all of your students will be housed. Of course, you can access them through different ways, but I always just come here, click, and then go to Overview to open up my student list. You can do fun things on the student list, like pulling up your students and digging in deeper. You can look at progress by clicking over here, and it's going to give you a little bit different view. If it loads. Here we go. So again, this is just showing you all of your students list. It's just a different view. You can go in and play around with all of these things. Everything is pretty self-explanatory and you can't mess anything up. I think you'll be fine and pick it right up once you get your computer. So you can simply look here at all of your students' information. You can select what courses you want to look at. So like this is language arts that's selected. You can select as many of these as you want to look at. And it's going to tell you what the student has, actual progress and expected progress, or you can switch it to the number of lessons, which is what I prefer. So it'll show you how many lessons have been completed and how many lessons still need to be completed. So again, this is on that overview page that we showed earlier. I'll show you that again here in a second, but this is just another way you can access progress to look at your students' information. It's really up to your preference of how you like to view it. Everybody likes to do it a little bit different. So if we go back to the overview page, this is just, again, going to give you the list of all students. So we'll just click on the first student here and go over some of the information we covered this morning when you access a student. So you can immediately see here on their overview page what lessons they are currently taking and who the teachers are for those lessons. You can see their start date, which should be when they enrolled, or their start date with the school, not when they enrolled. So it won't be their enrollment date, it will be the actual start date. So as you can see here, this student started on the 14th, which was the first day of school. The only course that's different is their Strong Start course, which started on 7/15. So you can then see their actual and expected progress here. Again, how many lessons they've completed, what still needs to be completed, and their progress percentages. So for example, this student has a B in math, has an A in handwriting, an A in literature, an A in spelling, and so forth. You can also view the student's information tab here. This is a quick way to look up parent information or just student information. You can find your parent's name and their phone numbers. Again, this should be the phone number that's correct, as well as their addresses and their first emergency contact that's listed. You'll also see just general information here about their enrollment. And you will have access to their username information. So if a learning coach contacts you and says, I don't remember how to get into my system, you can provide them with the username, but we don't have access to their passwords. They will have to click on that forgot my password tool there at the beginning of the login and go through the steps to reset their password. But you can give them their username. Again, the plan tab looks just like it does for students in the online school. You can search daily or weekly. And of course, it takes just a moment for it to load up here. Again, this is a daily view. It's going to show the students' Class Connect sessions and all of the classes listed. Same view as I'm sure you're used to seeing as a learning coach, where you get those green check marks. And then, of course, the weekly view is going to look just like a student view as well. I use this a lot to check in on students, see if they've logged in that day, if they've completed any work. And you can see what their Class Connect schedules look like here as well. So great tool to use there. Of course, the progress tab is going to look similar to what the student view in progress is. I always like to show the number of lessons instead of progress, but again, that's just a preference. And you can just see a quick view here of students' progress. And as you can see here, it's got a red exclamation point beside it. That means she's a little behind progress there. Here's another one. So those are good markers just to keep. If you see those, always want to dig a little deeper, check on what's going on with that subject and maybe how many lessons that student's behind. I don't really use the attendance tab and the snapshot detail tab because teachers use pacing guides, and we don't log attendance anymore as learning coaches. So those two I really don't use as much, but I do use the snapshot tool. And in the snapshot, again, this is going to show the actual and expected progress for your students. So as you can see here, students, you can see this student is completed 17 and should be at 19. However, that's not very big. I mean, that's only 2 lessons. I wouldn't contact anybody about that. I would just kind of monitor, make sure 2 lessons are super easy to get caught up. Again, looking good on progress. Here, I would probably make note of, she's supposed to be at 19 and hasn't done and is at 13. So you might want to just keep that in mind, and then you'll look on down here for some of the other areas. Again, we're mainly focusing on the maths and the ELAs. We definitely want to have, if they get behind, we want them to focus on those first. So definitely getting that writing skills. And then, of course, the science and the histories after that. So you can kind of see here what it looks like and how it flags you if the student is a little behind in a subject area. Now, of course, you can always go back to your home tab, which will take you to this view again. I don't use these alerts a lot because I'm just going in and checking. They tell you a lot of, anytime anybody gets an exclamation point or missing attendance that's not tracking correctly, so I don't use those a lot. But you can see your Class Connect sessions from here, as well as going to the Student tab and clicking on Class Connects. So if you had Class Connects, I like to look at the weekly view. You would find all of your Class Connects here for the week, and that's how you would enter them as well. So you can go in here and just click on it like you're going into a class as a student, and it will take you into the Blackboard session. Something else under the Students tab is also how you can access Total View School, or TVS. Sometimes people will call it TVE. We used to have a system called Total View Enrollment. We don't have access to that anymore, but TVS and TVA, Total View Action, are what we use. So you would click here for Total View School, and this is going to take you to the page where you can look up all of your classroom information, your student information, or adults. Again, this is that view where you would just select and pull up your classroom by students. And you can simply see your students here. We will click on one, and this is where you can see all of their information. All of the student information, all of the notes that have been entered on the student, so you can go in and view any of those notes if they're in your classroom. You'll be able to see if you made a note for that student also on this view. So it's a great tool for if you need to do a little digging to research a student. You can go in and see what teachers have already noted about this student or what they may have not completed. You can also see their courses and classrooms that have been loaded here. So this is showing again how much progress has been completed, but it shows you all of the courses that were ordered for the student by K-12. and the start dates. You can see if there's been any recent shipments. So this would be where their materials or computers were sent out. You can check their hardware here. If you talk to a learning coach and they say, oh, I should be approved for a computer, but they told me I was denied. That's totally okay. It happens all the time. The financial forms just don't get filled out. I don't know what happens in the hustle and bustle of things, but you can come to this Total View School TVS, click on the hardware tab under the student, and it's going to tell you whether they were eligible, whether they were approved, and where the printer and laptop are, and you can check the tracking numbers. If you see denied here, that's okay. Just tell them that you're going to get with operations and see if you can get that handled for them. What you'll do then is just email the principal and our operations guy, and they usually are able to get those computers approved for you like that. So that's how you'll check hardware when that comes into play. And then, of course, I use the Family tab to find extra phone numbers. If I can't reach someone, I just click on the names here. I start with the mothers and the learning coaches. And then last, if I can't get them after 3 or 4 times, I will start going through the emergency contact numbers and just asking if they can have that learning coach call me. Again, you'll find the cell numbers here. Just sometimes it doesn't show up right in the system, and you may get them on one of these additional numbers that they have listed. So that is how, just a brief view of what you might use in Total View School. And let me go back here to our OLS page and make sure there's nothing else we need to cover there. I think, and of course, here, if you click on the Communications tab, you can open your email from here. I just keep my Outlook. I have an Outlook app on my computer that I just keep open. It's the same email. It just opens it up in the school view. So you can access it from there as well. Again, here is where you find your notes. So if we entered a note for one of your students, which I did because one of the students we were trying to contact this morning called me back. So here you can see I entered a note for one of your students here. So you would just type in the name of the student that you're looking for, and then you would click Find, and it will pull up your list of notes for that student. You can then go in and edit your note or make a new note or add to an additional note. So finding your student's notes here. If you have a student and you need to make that new note, you just would come over here, click on New. You would type in the student's name and hit Search. You would then select them, return the message. You would pick your template, and then you would enter your note. Again, we'll go over this numerous times. You're going to be doing a lot of notes, so you'll get lots of practice on notes. You can also go over and in the communications, you can create new messages. So you can email students from here. Whenever you're emailing a student, you will have to email them from the school view of your email. You cannot email students directly from the external Outlook email. You'll see your emails there, but you can't email a student from there. We like to have all of the emails come from within the system because obviously it's a FERPA violation. We don't want the student's information out there. And if you send it from the email in the school, we know it's secure. So whenever you're emailing your students, you're going to use that tool right there. You're going to go to Notes or to Communication. You're going to go Create New Message, and that's going to take you to your email. You can then enter your student's name there. It'll pull up a list. You'd select that student. If you want to CC anybody on that, any other teachers or me, you would just type that information in there. And it should pop up my name, and of course it's not. But you get the gist. You would put your title, and then you would type your email and send it from there. We do have templates that you can use for certain emails. You probably won't have many of these at the get-go, but as they come about, I'll show you those templates and we'll go over those. But that's how you would email your students. So whenever you send out that introduction email, this is where you're going to come. You're going to do it from the online school, not your Outlook external box. So if you are going to email your classroom their introduction letter from you, you could simply come to your classroom. Oh, I hit the wrong thing. Hang on, this will take just a moment. Okay, here we go. So you would just come to your classroom. Okay, once you get to your classroom here, you can then select all of your students by clicking right there. You can click the Action tab and Send Message to Student. That's going to automatically populate your entire classroom. So you can send them all that introduction email at one time, and you don't have to individually send every email to 96 students. So you can also use that tool just selectively. So if you only need to send an email, or you're going to be sending the same information to a few students, you can do the same thing and click Send to Students, and it will populate that. And it will not show the other students' names that are listed. This is what's great about doing it out of the school view. If you did this in your regular Outlook, it would show all of the students' names on there, which is a FERPA violation. So using this, it will send that to each individual person, and it looks like that email only went to them. They will not see everybody else that was copied on that email. So you always want to make sure you're doing that. I think that pretty much covers everything that we did this morning. So if you have any questions about any of that, just let me know, and then we'll talk again tomorrow when we start making some more calls. Thanks.